So our next guest is a musician. Our next speaker is a musician. And a while ago, like 10 years ago, I met this group of musicians. And they came and stayed at my house when they were touring through town. And I found out musicians are a little bit like that book, When You Give a Mouse a Cookie. Because our house became a way station for, hey, there's this family, and you could give them a call, and maybe you can stay at their house when you're coming through town. And you know what? It's awesome. That's how I met our next speaker. What happens when other people's stories crash into you? If you're a writer, some amazing things. I'd like to welcome Bradford Loomis to the stage.
As an independent artist, I play a lot of unique shows, a lot of house concerts, do-it-yourself shows. And I've toured all across the country doing this, and I found it's a great way to meet people where they're at, in an intimate environment that's powerful, that removes distractions, and it allows you to engage people with the story that you're trying to tell more effectively. And it's been a great way to build relationships and start connecting with people that might be a little bit different than you. So I was trying to put together a tour going through the Midwest. It was my first tour through the Midwest, and I'd connected with a woman named Kelly who was interested in hosting a do-it-yourself show. But there was one problem. She didn't have a space that would work. She lived in a small apartment, and so we were kind of brainstorming some ideas to put together this show. And she said, I've got a bit of a radical idea. If you're interested. I said, sure, what are you thinking? She said, well, I volunteer at a men's maximum security prison. If you'd be interested, the fellas would love it if you'd come play some music for them. And I thought, heck yes, I'll be Johnny Cash. That sounded great to me. So we got all the paperwork together, we got it in, and when it was time to tour through St. Louis, I met up with Kelly, and we had lunch and got to know each other a little bit before we headed to the prison. And so on the way there, she turns to me and she says, no, I just want to be clear with you. You're going to meet some men on death row today. And some of these men are rapists, murderers, pedophiles, you name it. But I'm not going to tell you who did what. And I thought, dude, you're leaving out like the most important information. I felt like I should know that. I didn't understand why she was telling me that. And so we showed up about 2 hours early so that I could get a behind-the-scenes guided tour of the facilities. And I got to see just about every part of the prison. And I got to meet the guards and talk to them and meet the prisoners. And I saw this immediate duality where the guards are responsible for the physical well-being of the prisoners. But they also have to protect themselves emotionally and physically from the prisoners. And I thought, man, that is a terrible place to put a human being. And that's a terrible place for that person to act like a human being. So I left the prison that day with a much greater and different understanding of the complications and problems and the complexities of our penal system. So over the years, Kelly and I have kept in touch. And she keeps me aware of how the guys are doing, and I've talked with them on the phone a few different times, and including a gentleman by the name of Lance. So 2 years later, I was coming back through St. Louis, and I was going to play another show, and Kelly said, hey, I don't know what your plans are tomorrow, but Lance just happens to have an appeal for his death row sentence, and the hearing is tomorrow, and I'm going to go to it. And so I said, could I tag along? I don't have plans until I have a show later that night. But we got up at 5 a.m. and we drove 3 hours to the southwest Missouri town, this tiny little 900-person town. And we walked into this tiny little courtroom, and were met immediately with this very palpable tension and a bunch the room was filled with stern-faced police officers. Now, keep in mind, I still have no idea what Lance is in for. And I didn't know what I was walking into. But as we sat down and we progressed through the hearing, and I sat there and listened to all of the grisly details of his case, Lance had been convicted and found guilty of murdering a police officer. Hence all the police officers in the room. And so at a quiet moment, they ended the hearing, a break anyways, for lunch, and Kelly says, let's go say hi to Lance. So we walked up and got permission from the bailiff, and I shake his hand. And as I shake his hand, I realize something. When we meet someone, we have no idea what they've done in their life. And here I was, having just heard possibly the worst case scenario before meeting someone, and I'm shaking this man's hand. And that seemed significant somehow. And right after, a woman walked up to him and handed him a slip of paper, and the paper said Jeremiah 29:11. That's it. And he recited it from memory. And somehow that seemed significant. And I didn't know what to make of that. And as we left, and for the rest of the tour, I couldn't stop thinking about this. And then it dawned on me, all those years ago, when Kelly didn't tell me who did what, it was because she didn't want me to see them as the things that they had done. She wanted me to see them as humans. That regardless of the darkness or whatever's in your story, we're all human beings. And I felt struck with the idea, with the notion that there is an incredible power in the vulnerability of sharing your story. But there might be even more power in wading into someone else's. So I heard about Jesus on the radio, and I was humming along like it was a song that I've always known. I can never get past my circumstance. I'm a receipt of this with a desperate wish for one last chance. But if I could hear you breathing just these ones, if I could hear you breathing just these ones, so tell me your story and I'll tell you mine. We'll sing them like a song about how love just wasn't right. I've been waiting on my heart like it's hard to find. I'm so tired of giving up one breath at a time. I know it's hard for someone to change, but the promise we made is like a crowded parade, and I just can't escape. I've never known what it meant. I've got nothing to give, just this moment to live, and maybe that's well spent. But if I could hear you breathing just these ones, if I could hear you breathing just these words, so tell me your story and I'll tell you mine. We'll sing them like a song about how love just wasn't right. I've been waiting on my heart like it's so divine. Oh, I'm so tired of giving up one breath at a time. I swear I won't stop now. I push on through and I don't know how. I'll bury the old me in the ground. I'm never giving up. I won't quit now. I'm not had enough. I'll drink it down on this bitter cup. So tell me your story, and I'll tell you mine. And we'll sing them like a song about how love just wasn't right. I've been waiting on my heart like it's hard to find. Oh, I'm so tired of giving up one breath at a time.
Okay, so Bradford was going to sing a second song, but he broke a string. So I'm going to hope that we can bring him back somewhere later because it's an amazing song. Thank you, Bradford.
In 1863, there was a man named Samuel Porter. Samuel was a slave on a Mississippi plantation. And in June of that year, if you know your history, the Battle of Vicksburg was fought. And when the Union won, Samuel figured if he could just make it to the Mississippi River, now that it was in Union control, and if he could make it far enough north traveling at night, he could find the Ohio River, and he could take that east. And following the river valleys, he could eventually make it to New York City. See, there was a freed woman named Abigail Long that he knew to be living in New York City. And so he was desperate to get there and finally saw his chance. And so he did it. He left. He made it to the river. He found his way all the way to Ohio, in fact, before he found himself in a set of circumstances he wasn't sure he was going to survive. And so he wrote this letter. In the second half of the song, it kind of changes tempos a bit. It becomes Abigail's letter in reply. No matter what your story is, you are never beyond hope. My days are done, and my bones have been put to rest. When my grave and stone has found its home, may you not be bereft. Don't waste your prayers on a wretch like me. My heart's been given to wandering.
Love brings hope, don't you say that's no. Though you feel me, girl, your heart may roam and mine will be your home. Wait, oh, you see, babe, there is still hope. Roll away that star. Wait, oh, you see, babe, there is still hope. Roll away that star. Come on up, rise on up, get out of that grave, my Lazarus. Come on up, rise on up, get out of that grave, sweet Lazarus. Gonna get on the Lazarus, gonna get out the grave. Boy, you ain't never seen nothing like a dead man dance. Get on the Lazarus, gonna get out the grave. Boy, you ain't never seen nothing like a dead man dance. Come on up, rise on up, get out of that grave, my Lazarus. Come on up, rise on up, get out of that grave, sweet Lazarus.
Thank you very much.